from Boston, narrowly escaping a blizzard that was imminent upon the northeastern United States and Canada, but that means we get a podcast episode. So I'm glad to be back home and recording the Collegiate Exclusive Podcast with my main man TJ. TJ, how you doing? How was your weekend? Hopefully a lot warmer than mine.
Yeah, it wasn't snowy and it wasn't blizzard-like, that's for sure. No, I was sat right here, just enjoying my weekend while I got it. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be traveling for 3 straight weekends after this. I got 2 lands and my birthday that I will be celebrating.
All right.
So I'm going to be staying busy, that's for sure. But outside of that, no, I mean, just hung out. I had to do SEL without you yesterday. That was awful. I can't believe I missed my other half yesterday, but we had a good time, and I hope for those of you who tuned in, you enjoyed the show with Scott.
Yeah, I wish I could have been there, but I honestly needed a day. I got back home 2:30 a.m. Sunday night, and then had to be at the coffee shop at 7 a.m. Monday morning. And like I'm sure people can tell by my voice, I've got some kind of like laryngitis stuff from yelling as loud as I did for NRG and Shopify Rebellion at the Boston Major. So I need some recovering from that as well. So unfortunately, had to miss the SEL, but I know you guys held it down without me. Though I do miss the chaos of that tier 2 action. Like that's what we look forward to every Monday.
Surely, yes, that's what we look forward to every Monday. Yeah, let's keep it like that for now.
All right, well, let's get into things. For those that have been busy this past week or so, there hasn't been a ton that's gone on in the CRL space over the course of the last week. Like, we got all our standard league play stuff, like ACC, NACE, ECAC, PCL all went on, but there was no CRL last weekend because it's this Saturday, the 28th, and I want to remind everyone that is the case. It's not on Sunday, the 29th of February, because that doesn't exist, but make sure you know that it is on Saturday, the 28th, because they decided to change it. I have to assume they did this to avoid having teams that couldn't compete on Sundays missing out on a chance to qualify. I don't know if that's the exact reasoning or not. TJ, I don't know if you've got any insight into this or speculation, but it is on Saturday instead of Sunday.
I wish that I had any insight. Look, I'm pretty against the idea of collegiate tournaments being on weekends in the first place. I do believe that if you want to have maybe a LAN qualifier or even for the CRL qualifiers and that's on a Saturday, all right. If you want to put a weekend to the side for that, then fair play. But outside of that, I'm very, very against anything being over the weekend. It's college. Like the odds of, especially for all the CRL schools, like a lot of these guys, even some of the Europeans, like they're not playing the game like they're not scrimming over the weekends. Like nobody's grinding over the weekends. But so I don't know why when they decide to move it off. Like a Sunday night, you're already getting locked in for your Monday night games for most teams. Saturday is just kind of smack dab in the middle of the plans if you want to do literally anything else with your weekend. So a little odd. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's CRL, so people know that they're going to move their schedules for CRL, and CRL knows that as well. So Saturday, I think, is better for us as streamers, as broadcasters, but for everybody else, it's just kind of whatever. Just show up and good luck.
Yeah, I mean, at least with it being just 2 weekends of qualifiers. Like, the league play stuff, I agree, should probably be during the week, but, like, if you're going to qualify for CRL, it's been on Sundays since, like, the dawn of time, I feel like. I remember doing Auburn team streams, like, waking up at early in the morning to get ready for an 11 a.m. qualifier start back in the older CRL days. So, like, CRL does, for better or for worse, know that you're going to move your schedule around to do their qualifiers at the very least. So it is Saturday. Make sure you're all aware of that. But let's get into results real quick, because I know we'll be talking a lot of the CRL brackets later on in the week and on Saturday. I'll definitely be live for that. Hopefully you'll be there too, TJ. But NECC is our first stopping points, as we had a couple of good-looking series last week, but no real upsets. And we'll start in Group A here. I have to crop real quick. Hopefully you've got the matches up, TJ. Actually, no.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
There we go. But here, I'll read them out. Again, nothing crazy. All sweeps, actually. Oklahoma Christian 4-0 Ole Miss. Fisher 4-0s Kennesaw State. And Akron Gold 4-0s Davenport Red. Kind of standard.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we kind of went live to everybody here. This has been a pretty low-key week for CRL.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty very like calm before the storm that will be this weekend is the best way I'd word it. And especially within tier 1, like unfortunately this is one of those weeks where the top heavy matchups kind of show their ugly head. And like that's OC versus Ole Miss. That is what should be an Indiana Tech win over St. Clair Gold, maybe like a 4-1 or a 4-2, maybe. I'm not sure yet.
They're without velocity. Indiana Tech is. They're not with velocity for any CC.
Really?
As from what I've heard, and this might have changed because Bluey did say velocity would be back for CRL play, but last I heard he wasn't going to be competing in the NECC.
Well, then give me Fatal in that matchup. I have faith in the boys. That one will be fun. I think it'll be fun, but not like a game-changing, like group-defining matchup. Now, Akron Gold and Davenport Red, I was low-key hoping for maybe Davenport Red to sneak a game or two, or maybe get off to a hotter start. But I mean, Akron Gold with Patty, that team is redefined and reconsistent, or redone their consistency with Patty on the lineup. It's a completely different dynamic from Milio, so no shocker there.
I actually am a little bit shocked by the Akron Gold result. I thought Davenport Red could compete with Akron Gold, considering the season that Akron Gold's had so far, which has been, I don't know, I think it's been a little bit inconsistent at times. Like they haven't been able to compete with the top teams like they used to. After a fairly lackluster outside of their Ball State win, CRL Open Qual 1, and no real big wins yet this semester. I thought Davenport Red was going to have an easier time against Akron Gold, like at least taking a game or two, but I guess that wasn't the case. Don't know what happened in that series, but it is what it is. But Akron Gold, they definitely do need to be taking wins like this, I feel like, if they are going to maintain their standing around that top 20 range. And I'm glad to see them getting this W going into this weekend, because Akron Gold, I think, is a team that's kind of on the outside looking in that probably should be in a qualifier match, I think, going into a potential league play spot.
Yeah, I mean, we stand on viewpoints of the same basing, but slightly different in terms of our outlook on it. Like, I don't disagree with your point, but what I do disagree with is like Akron Gold 4-0ing Davenport Red. In my opinion, that is an expected result. Given the way this team has played together in the past, and also with Patty and Jan's success in RLCS, like I truly do believe that 4-0 is not surprising. I just had hope for Davenport Red, and even for CRL this weekend, I expect Akron Gold to qualify, and we talked about it last episode.
Were they made our list, our top 8?
They were in mine.
Okay, maybe I think that might have been the one that we disagreed on then. Where I picked Syracuse, you picked Akron Gold. Was that what it was?
Yeah, and I'll probably, like, maybe there's a world where I maybe swap another top team out because I believe Syracuse has a decent shot too. It's very hard. Akron Gold, though, like you said, they should be in a qual match. That, in my opinion, is the absolute bare minimum for Akron Gold, and I think it's going to be luck of the draw based on how the bracket plays out from there. But I really do think they're going to be they're the sleeper pick in my opinion to make it. Like Syracuse is a contender. Akron Gold has had a pretty rough start, so I don't think they get the benefit of the doubt that they are really good. I think they're the dark horse of the tournament, but we'll see. That's my expectation.
Yeah, we'll find out. But 3 teams that are already in league play actually took their wins in the NECC. Although, for all the sweeps in Group A, TJ, I'm shocked that Group E, or Group B rather, didn't have the same sort of 4-0s here. Like, with St. Clair playing Bruton Parker, with Concord playing Leslie, with Northwood playing Carthage, I would have expected these results to be what we got in the Group A matches, and vice versa. But St. Clair loses 2 games to Bruton Parker. Concord's taken a Game 7 by Leslie, and I actually got to see Collat this weekend. I got to see all of Leslie this weekend at the Boston Major, but Collat was saying that he missed a somewhat open net against Concord in Game 7 that would have given them a really good chance to win that series. And I feel like this result is exactly what I said would happen last week, where Concord doesn't take Leslie seriously enough, and then it's a much closer series than it maybe should have been.
Well, I mean, absolutely. And also Concord has a lot of like internet issues that they're still trying to work their way out of right now. So I don't know if it's a mix. Like Concord has trolled games in the past. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to give them any ways out. And Leslie did win 2 and 3, and they were actually up 3-2 in that game before things kind of made their push all the way towards Game 7 or 6 and 7, I should say. So Leslie unironically had a fair shot at it. I'm not going to say Concord full trolled it. Who knows what's going on over there? I will also add Bruton Parker and St. Clair. I am thrilled with this result. result. If Bruton Parker is contending with some of the best in the nation, then their semester looks absurdly bright. When I was kind of a hater, I'm not gonna lie, for the first month, because I was very intrigued to see how Antics was gonna fit back into this, like, the swing of things. But I'm really happy to see this one go to 6. Now, granted, this one's got more of a St. Clair troll written all over it because they went up 3-0 before Bruton Parker found 2 games. So that's my personal take. But also with this Northwood game, this one is the more obvious. Like, all right, who knows what Northwood did? Because they just straight up lost game 1 and then proceeded to handle 3 in a row, dropped another game, and then, handled business. But these are close games. So I can't tell who's trolling anymore. I can't tell who's actually trying. I would probably make the argument that the Concord Leslie one was a mini sweat fest, whereas the St. Clair and the Northwood ones were maybe like a 60% troll, 40% trying type of dynamic, or maybe even closer to 50-50. Regardless, that does not discount the results of any of the teams that lost this week. Those are good results for the standings of this group regardless. But yes, the scores were close, but I'm not putting a lot of stock into any teams outside of maybe halfway into Bruton Parker and then 100% of the way into Leslie.
I still hold true my belief that these good teams that drop games, maybe go to a game 7, but still win the series, I don't actually really factor that into my rankings of them. As long as they get the win, that's enough for me to respect the fact that they won that series. Doesn't matter how many games they played in it, because we're playing so many games in CRL in so many different environments for some of these teams that I don't feel like going to 7 with Leslie is a knock on Concord's resume. I think it's pretty good for Leslie, but I don't think it's a big knock on Concord. Once they start losing those series, though, that's when we can start talking. But let's do a standings check-in as well for these groups, since we are almost halfway through the NECC group stage. But I don't think that's any real shocker here that St. Clair and Northwood are up at the top at the moment, and Concord will be up there as well momentarily once that series with Leslie is confirmed on League OS. So I don't think anything's too crazy except for Bruton Parker being towards the top here, because I'm with you. Like, we were actually kind of doing a lot of hating on their results at the start of this semester, TJ. But Bruton Parker have very much turned things around, and I'm actually pretty curious as to how they did it.
I mean, I think it's more so like Antics was an 18 player and an RLCS top 32, top 16 contender like for years. So I think the bigger issue was Bruton Parker made the decision in-house to bring Antics back on. And now we're starting to see that decision pay off. They believe like Antics must be back to grinding full hours, and he must be back to playing like the old version of himself. Not to mention now, instead of the old roster where I believe at the time, whenever he first came to Bruton Parker, it was Manny, Antics, and it was Melodic at one point, and then it was another
Sino
player before.
played.
It was Sino at one point, and then Cass came in down the line. But now that roster's changed because now you have Milk, who has been probably the best prospect Bruton Parker has produced. Maybe ever. And now that question's still left to be unanswered. I have a lot of faith in Milk. That's my boy Tyler. I really do think that Bruton Parker, this is the first semester where they've actually developed a team. And that includes Cass and Antics, even though Antics had to kind of redevelop within the program. So I actually really like Bruton Parker and their odds to go number 4 in this group, because 1 through 3, like, this group's absurdly top heavy. And you can see it in the standings. Absurdly top heavy. But Leslie, Bruton Parker, and I would even argue Cleveland State. Well, actually, Davenport Black is 0-2 as well. Can't forget about them. It's tight. But if I had to give a hot take for this podcast in a very slow and kind of cold week in CRL, I'm going to choose Bruton Parker right now. But their schedule only gets harder from here. Like, they basically only can drop 1 of their next 4 games to hold on to that spot. But we'll keep a close eye and see how it goes.
I like that take, that they could beat out Davenport and Leslie. I don't know about Cleveland State and Carthage. Sorry, boys, if they're contending for that 4th spot. But that is a good reminder that it is top 4 that make playoffs here in the NECC. So do keep that in mind as we look at Group A standings as well. Oklahoma Christian and Fisher right there at the top. No real shockers. Kennesaw State up there as well. But then you've got Ole Miss 1-2 right now with a tough schedule to start out. Indiana Tech is a bit of a wild card at the moment with Velocity's standing in question, and then Davenport Red and St. Clair Gold. I had greater hopes for them than what they've produced so far, but Maybe they'll be able to turn things around in the later stages of group play, but at the moment, I think Oklahoma Christian, Fisher, and Kennesaw State should be the locks, with probably Ole Miss and Akron Gold duking it out, and then Indiana Tech is kind of the question mark team.
Yeah, fates are going to start to be sealed in the next, probably, unironically, this week or next week could seal the fates of most of the NECC teams at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like, coming back from 03, this is both an issue for really, like, both Davenport teams haven't won a game yet in NECC, which is crazy. Both of them, like Davenport Reds, one more loss away from basically being ruled out of making the top four. St. Clair Gold, I don't know what to expect because I have faith in that team. Like, me and Fatal had a very funny DM conversation last podcast because I was hating on them a little too much. Like, I believe in that team. But it's about where is everybody's hearts at, right? Like Kennesaw State Premier, like I know that even though they may not grind 1,000 hours, like I know they're going to play and care.
Yeah.
Same thing for OC. OC always has a chip on their shoulder. People are always hating on OC. They are still one of the best teams in the nation, and they're going to play like it. And for Fisher, they finally have one of their best rosters, if not their best Rocket League roster ever. We'll have to see how they perform, obviously. But an absurdly talented roster, and also a great team captain in Royales, who is one of the most positive people I've ever met in this scene. So the duality of Group A and the top and the contenders and who's playing in it versus Group B and the top and the contenders, it's two completely different showcases. So there's nothing guaranteed yet at all. So we'll wait and see how this week goes. Maybe Group B will have an early kind of sneak peek after next week, but Group A, I'm not putting anybody locked in just yet. Maybe OC, but outside of them, nobody yet.
Yeah, it's really competitive at the top of Division 1 at the moment, which I love. I think that's what NECC definitely needs. We need a league like this that can produce competitive series every single week. So shout out to NECC for that. Let's move on to Division 2 now as well. Not a ton going on down here. We're gonna skip two of the groups because there wasn't anything notable in either of the West groups. So we're skipping on them this week. Sorry to the Western Central schools, but I wanted to look at East A, just kind of solely for the Shawnee State over Robert Morris series, just to instill some faith in Shawnee State that they can still beat those teams that they should be beating, honestly, after a rough start to the semester. So 4-1 over Robert Morris, fairly convincing for Shawnee State. So I'm glad to see this is the case for them because it kind of keeps them still in the conversation for playoffs in a still pretty difficult East A group to get out of with how Fanshawe and Conestoga have been performing in CRL and outside. And then UNCC and Fisher Navy we kind of expected big things from. But Shawnee State's right there, and Mount Union 2-1 as well. Shout out.
Well, and also we're missing two of the proving games. Like Fuel and Fisher, their match is going to happen tonight. And then for Niner and Conestoga, their match hasn't been rescheduled yet. And both those were supposed to be played already. So there's a lot of teams missing a game in the middle right now because the future of this group is very, very much in the hands of some of these games. Like Fuel beat Fisher and then Fisher beat Fuel in the CRL qualifiers. I believe they went 1-1. And then as for Niner and Conestoga, Niner is fresh off a LAN win. They were at the oh man, I'm gonna forget. We were in Charlotte. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna forget the name. Nate Dogg is gonna have to help me out here. I believe it was the something Esports Collective, maybe Charlotte or Carolina's Esports Collective or something like that. I could be totally wrong. I'll let him clarify on that. But like Niner has actually been on a decent run. They had to beat teams like South Carolina. They had to beat a Virginia Tech who was also very hot off of the CRL qualifiers. So I really think that maybe there's a little bit of faith in them, but also like on the match page, like the round 3 match page for East Day, like Shawnee, Robert Morris, Warriors Gold, and Mount Union are all on one side, and then Fuel, Fisher, Niner, and Conestoga are on the other. It's about as storybook as it gets when you look at those matchups. And Shawnee should be the locked-in 5th seed in this group, but unfortunately, I don't see them punching any better up or down. I think that this is going to be a battle between them top 4.
Well, they got to step it up, or continue to step it up, I should say. Good win of Robert Morris, but they need bigger wins if they're going to get back in the conversation. They're kind of being carried by name value at the moment when it comes to the conversations in CRL contexts. But big actually upset in East B this week, and it's not going to show immediately on screen, but we'll get to it. Big, actually, couple of upsets, I should say. Yeah, Bruton Parker JV, a Game 7 win over Florida Southern. And then South Carolina, they beat Winthrop Academy, take care of business against Winthrop Academy again. This is not the first time they've played each other this semester. And Daytona State, they get their win over UCF. And off your screen right now, Kennesaw State's B team, that's the Dylan and Clixie squad, they beat Florida in Game 7, TJ. How about that win for the KSUB team?
Yeah, this team needed a signature win. They needed something to stand on and really show everybody that they're a contender for top 48, top 32, top 32 positions. And this was a big one. Florida State jumped out to a 1-0 lead, but then Kennesaw goes 2, 3, and 4 and gets those 3 games in a row. That swing right there just simply, it seemed like it made it too hard for Florida because they had to use a whole lot of gas. They went 2-1 Game 5, 2-1 Game 6, and must have ran out 3-0 Game 7. So really, really big for Dylan and his team. And also with Condra, who's a freshman, literally fresh out of the Georgia High School State Championships. He was just competing there, and then immediately is getting wins like this in his freshman year. So nothing but absolute just... I'm trying to think of the best word for it. Like absurdly impressive gameplay from that freshman to slot into this roster that, like, with all due respect to Kennesaw B, they really weren't contending for much last semester. They didn't really have signature wins or signature losses. They weren't really in the position to make big wins. But now they get Condra and everything flips and changes. So credit to Dylan. I know he's been grinding and this team deserves it. But also for Florida, I don't want to say it's a bad loss, but it feels like it's right on the edge. It's right on the fence, I feel like, of what's a bad loss versus what's a close game.
Yeah, Florida is still inconsistent, and that's always been the case with them. It's usually the case with club teams. Like, you just some weeks you can't put in the hours because you have a couple of exams you're preparing for, so you're not fresh on the sticks. And for Florida, this is another one of those losses that's just going to continue to keep them kind of around the 40 mark, in my opinion, when it comes to the rankings. And so we'll see what happens with them. I'm going to be doing a live top 48 ranking after this podcast, and I'm going to be putting in all these results because I've fallen behind in my spreadsheet. So we'll be getting everything inputted. We'll see where these teams stand. But for Kennesaw State B, like, I wasn't looking at them as a top 48 team before this, and now they've shown that they can beat ranked teams. And I had Dylan in my DMs. He was like, Kennesaw State B, top 48 win. And then I had Clixie in person in Boston being like, Kennesaw State B, top 48 win. And so I can't escape it right now. So I'll definitely give them a look after this. Good win for them. And for Bruton Parker JV, same sort of deal. Right now, TJ, they're 2-1 in this NECC group, and their only loss is to Winthrop Academy in Game 7. This team might actually sneak into playoffs here.
Well, I mean, I will say this. For the Kennesaw upset over Florida, there's a lot more unexpected, a lot more precedent that Kennesaw has to fight. As for Bruton Parker JV, the precedent isn't as strong against them. Like, this Bruton Parker B team has had a decent history of showing up to LANs, of competing, of showing up online, finding a win here and there. Like, this has always been a team that you've worried about. But then when you add a Manny onto this team, like, I talk about the change of, like, Wova dropping down a team or Patty dropping down a team. In terms of the culture of a team, bringing Manny down completely switches how this Bruton Parker JV team kind of plays. And also with Antics not grinding as much with these two players beforehand, talking about Kyler and Wish, I think now they have a true captain and a true leader. And Manny is doing absolute work. But that also goes to show the work of somebody like Kyler, who, when I talk about Bruton Parker recruits and project players and development players, Kyler is right behind what I would say as Milk as one of the fastest growing prospects out of this team, and he looks incredible. And then as for Wish, shout out Dante. I actually didn't know he had it in him. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Like, he spent a lot of time, like, he was always the funny dude on this roster. Granted, don't get me wrong, like, he's peaked right below 1900, and that was only like last season or the season before. Like, don't get me wrong, he's been up there before. But when I view contenders and competitors, he's just a laid back, go with the flow dude. God forbid I thought that, because they take, pretty good work of Florida Southern. And it also goes all the way to 7. So great series. And Florida Southern were fighting tooth and nail. They were down 2-0, got Game 3, went down 3-1, won 2 in a row, and then it wasn't enough for a 5-0 Game 7. Again, like Florida, both Florida teams, just not enough gas in the tank for a 7-game series.
Yeah, I love the Wish story that you talked about. It kind of reminds me of Kung at UTK, where it's like this guy that you know more for what he does outside of the Rocket League pitch. Like Kung kind of
Yeah.
helping the UTK program function. Wish, you know, from how loud he gets at LAN and how boisterous a supporter of Bruton Parker he is. And then they actually like come in here, work on their individual game, and actually get pretty good, where they're turning some heads and getting some decent wins. So I love stories like that. Guys are not expecting to be solid at the game, but they just put their head down and grind and get better. And now for Bruton Parker JV, it's showing. We're getting a lot of good stories like that in the CRL space right now. I love how the scene's developed to the point where we're getting a lot of different motivational factors for players like this. Like for Bruton Parker JV, like they've got NECC playoffs on their horizons now, and that's a good bit of motivation, it seems, for this team to do well. So I love that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll throw in one more point to kind of wrap this group up into
Yeah.
a nice little bow. South Carolina has looked really good, looked very good in NECC. And I say that because they just showed up to the same LAN that Charlotte was at. They actually lost to Virginia Tech in semifinals, I believe, which is not an expected loss, in my opinion. Even though Virginia Tech's been hot, I don't expect South Carolina to do that. And with that, yeah, and that's fine. That SJT brings up a good point. They were playing with a sub. They were playing with, God, forgive me for forgetting. It was T-Man instead of Turnup.
Okay.
Which also, like, of all the people who could sub, like, T-Man's still a decent player, so I'm not putting, like, a lot of stock into that LAN loss. I'm just putting, like, a sprinkle of it. But in NECC, this team looks disgusting. Huge wins. We're talking a Game 6 over Daytona State. We're talking a Game 6 over Kennesaw B. We're talking a Game 6 over Winthrop. Like, you can't get these guys to Game 7. You can't get them down in a series at all. They look incredible. And I'm more so excited. Like, out of all the storylines in this group, I'm more so excited for this group. And also, SJT's bringing this up in chat, so I got to bring it to the podcast. He looked at me across the table whenever I had to bring my UGA boys to play them. He looked at me and said, I've been waiting for this one because y'all be hating on USC. First off, I find the clip of me hating on USC, because I have been ever since SJT was put into the lineup for Boost on the Beach, I've been an SJT fan, and I've been a Turnup fan. I've never been a South Carolina hater. All right, anyways, he wants to bring it in chat. I had to bring that up. But that wraps up Div 2 in a nice little bow. South Carolina looks like a really, really good contender.
I hate South Carolina because I was going to stream their match against Bruton Parker JV tomorrow, and they rescheduled to Saturday. So I hate SJT the most, and I hate South Carolina for that because I really wanted to watch that series. But it is what it is. I'll be streaming Florida versus Winthrop Academy tonight. The Nate Dog's actually going to be casting with me. That'll be at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. And then I got Florida Southern and Daytona State tomorrow on stream. So make sure you all like and subscribe to the channel and all that. But let's move on to NACE. We got a couple series to look at. Last week, some, again, middle of the table results, not super interesting. And again, it's going to be cut off. So here's what we got. Bruton Parker's on the bye. We got Cumberland beating Winthrop with Phantom playing instead of Garrett G. Shout out Garrett G. He had a long line of people 1v1ing him at the NRG booth in Boston. But that's all the action that I've seen him in outside of the CRL Open Qualifier number 1. Cumberland beat him 3-1, not too surprising. West Virginia beat Ball State 3-1, not too surprising. Baylor beat St. Clair 3-1. That's a result you can actually take something from. And then Akron 3-1 ETSU, not too surprising.
Yeah, I mean, Baylor comes back from Hawaii and actually looks like themselves again. That's a big win over St. Clair, a team that was seemingly figuring it out because they took a really bad loss to Fuel and then all of a sudden did what they were supposed to do, and they didn't drop a game. They went 9-0 and losers to go qual. So good win for Baylor on a team that kind of had to regain after 2 weeks ago. Again, went there with a sub. I'm not putting a lot of stock into it, but a good controlled win for Cumberland. I also got to actually meet Phantom in person at the Charlotte LAN this past weekend, and he was telling me a little bit about this game. He said that Percy and T-Krill, Like obviously, like when it comes to CRL games, they are going to try. But with these NACE games, like especially without Garrett, it's not only are they, like they're not like full sweating, but also like it's NACE. Like they're gonna make playoffs. So once that comes around, then I expect to see Winthrop kind of go unleashed. But also Cumberland's that's not an easy matchup, even if they were full trying this game. So good win for Cumberland, and then Akron ETSU. At least they got a game, and then same thing for Ball State and West Virginia. I would say based off how Ball State played this last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, I should say, at least they got a game because they look very cold right now. We'll have to see how they perform going into the second qual. But Ball State also beat Winthrop in this group in round 1, so.
Yeah, I mean Winthrop's kind of the punching bag, which is funny to say in this super conference group. Like Winthrop is the punching bag of all the teams that are that are kind of using them as a launch pad and to get up the standings here. So that's what happens. I mean, Phantom is a really good player, but when you're pitting him and a Percy and TCRL that aren't really taking it seriously against the likes of like a Cumberland team that looks super hot, West Virginia, Ball State, Baylor, these teams are grinding. They actually want these wins. And even for Baylor, like these guys, maybe they're not grinding, but like Baylor's a new program. So I know Coach Stanley's probably like, guys, come on, let's get some wins against some of these bigger names. Help get some more recognition from the main Baylor Twitter account that tweeted about their Hawaii win, which is pretty sick. Awesome. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, yeah. No, I mean, I saw Stanley retweet it. It is incredible that Baylor not only has such investment. I mean, it goes to show you what can happen when a school finds the right director, but also finds the right person. Like Stanley, shout out Adam. Coach Stanley is a alumni of Baylor. He gets to come back to Baylor. He gets to found this esports program, which is getting an immense amount of, I believe it's president support directly, or at least athletic support. Regardless, they're getting a lot of investment, both socially and financially. Stanley was the perfect person to hire. Yeah. And now they are in a league. The NACE is one of the biggest leagues, one of the biggest, I think, investment leagues for major schools. And Baylor is in a really good spot to, if I'm being really honest, unless Winthrop wants to put Garrett in for playoffs, Baylor, unironically, now they've handled St. Clair. I think they cruise through St. Clair or through Super Conference right now. I don't know who's going to really put a hand up. Cumberland or West Virginia, mainly.
Okay.
I mean, I hope so. I'm going to put Cumberland in the same conversation because I think that, they can do it. But I really, really don't know. I mean, we're not going to see those matchups until, let me try and look here. West Virginia plays Cumberland in round 5, which is March 6th. Okay. So we're getting close to that.
It's in 2 weeks.
And then Winthrop, and then West Virginia and Baylor, sorry, not Winthrop. They play on round, I'm almost there. Is it the last round? It might be. No, it's ETSU. Wait 2 seconds, guys. I'm doing my journalism here.
It would be awesome if League Spot had a way for us to actually, they might
start shit up.
If you click on West Virginia's team name, you can go to their full schedule.
Yeah, I mean Baylor plays Cumberland March 17th, so there's that. Okay. And then Cumberland plays, Baylor plays
West Virginia.
Hold on now. This is what we go through before we do the podcast. Bro. This is a good example. When does Baylor play West Virginia? Did I miss that matchup completely?
Oh yeah, they have already played. We covered. That was week 1. That's what we don't remember.
Oh, it was week 1, and West Virginia won. Okay, well, good on West Virginia. That win is going to do wonders for them down the road for tiebreakers. So you know what? Yeah, I'll throw West Virginia in the conversation, but I personally really do believe that Baylor should be able to handle that. But also, Cosmic keeps on getting better. Like him and his guys finished top 8 in North America. I'm pretty sure this past RLCS split. So, it's doable. It's absolutely doable. But I'm rooting for Baylor right now.
When we're talking NACE, the last thing I wanna shout out is whoever is doing their graphics, and this is gonna show up kind of poorly on stream, but we're gonna try and make it work. But they posted this in their Discord today. A match highlight, and they've got it's a sick looking graphic. I'm gonna be completely honest, and they're shouting out Akron versus West Virginia happening tonight, and then they've got this little write up as well. And whenever I see a write-up like this, I've kind of been conditioned to see if it's AI, because a lot of leagues, unfortunately, you do just cheesy write-ups for the sake of doing a write-up. Like, if you're going to use AI for a write-up, you're not doing it to actually push narratives. You're doing it just to have something out there that looks somewhat like a traditional sports write-up. But this actually does seem like a human put it together, like talking about very specific results. With West Virginia beating Baylor. If we had checked this out before, TJ, we could have had that result. But yeah, they pulled ahead by a single goal in the final game, and they're playing Akron tonight. Like these are good graphics. I want to shout out Nace for the quality coverage when it comes to their graphics in their Discord.
Yeah, I mean, this right here is exactly what you're supposed to pay for when you pay for NACE. Like, NACE is the most expensive varsity league, and it should be for stuff like this. Like, I hate they didn't start doing this sooner, because this is really cool, and I hope they get to do it for more conferences than just a super conference. But really cool ideas with the graphic. Like, all of this is very sports-based, except for this graphic, which is so special to talk about the specific teams. In a perfect world, I would love for there to be, like, player stats and a head-to-head that maybe the mainstream uses, too. That would be awesome. But that's my wish list. This is very good from NACE. Not to mention the Florida LAN is one of the coolest LANs in all of college esports. And NACE does a really good job with that event.
Yep.
So good on NACE. They're taking all the right steps. And they had a huge change in leadership last year, too. Brand new CEO, I believe, or director, or whatever you want to call that position.
Really long.
So, yeah, big shout out to what the whole staff team is doing as well. NACE is not only continuing to move in the right direction, but they're starting to, I think, get a firmer grasp on the competitive standard after they took a slight dip last year with NECC getting their big, like, push in teams and all that. But NACE still, I think, reigns supreme in terms of value.
Well, let's move along from NACE, despite the reigning supreme in value, because we got one ECAC match to talk about. One interesting ECAC match. This is another Ball State Black series that I want to talk about in the ECAC. They've beaten Akron Gold in ECAC, and now they have beaten Bruton Parker here. So shout out to the Ball State B team. Had a bad CRL Open Qual 1, but it's all good. They're still doing well in ECAC, still pulling some good wins there. Best of 7 win over Bruton Parker here, except thumbs down to BK for once again uploading screenshots of just a random clip art key instead of...
You can do this?
Yeah, no, he does this for every single one of the Ball State series. Look at this. He uploads the logos or just something random. You click on the Ball State Black Akron Gold. Yeah, he uploads the logo.
You can do that? Okay, well that is yeah, I hope NECC, I hope there's not NECC, I hope there's ECAC admin looking at this, because that is ridiculous. I did not know that you could do that. I can't believe that they get away with that. Well, also, like you know, like, I'm actually not even mad at BK. I'm mad at ECAC for this, because how do you allow that to like, the replay files are .replay, or like, if you wanted to take the screenshots, like, somebody's got to check their biggest conference. Like, there's no excuse for Titan. But regardless, let's actually talk about the game. For Bruton Parker, I don't... it's not a bad loss, because Ball State Black is good. Don't get me wrong, they're good. But, like, this is why Bruton Parker has to beat the allegations of being a gatekeeper team, because they have to win series like that to be consistently top 16, to be consistently top 15, 12. If they want to go higher, they have to win those games. But good for Ball State Black, because they definitely needed that after a tough Ball State CRL Qual weekend.
Well, that's literally the only ECAC match that I really want to talk about. All the other ones were as expected, no real close series. So we'll move on from ECAC and start talking about the LANs that we had this past weekend, because there were two like pretty quality LANs. And I'm going to start out with the what I think was the higher quality of the two LANs, the Texas Collegiate Invitational. And for those that follow the scene, you'll definitely have seen this already, but this was a pretty stacked LAN for it being just Texas schools plus Oklahoma. Oklahoma's Rocket League team actually wasn't there. Their Valorant team was, but their Rocket League team was competing in a different Oklahoma LAN. But this was highlighted by Baylor and Lubbock Christian and UT Dallas as well, rounding out the top 3. But overall, pretty competitive LAN event. This was the bracket stage. There was a group stage before this, but we're not really looking at that. But pretty standard results overall. Baylor got their win. Lubbock Christian beat the teams they had to. Looked competitive against Baylor, and overall, pretty high quality LAN. Shout out UTD.
Yeah, I mean, they've always kind of set a standard for on-campus involvement in esports. Like the new facility is incredible. And what the entire program is doing, especially shout out Director Josh as
Hmm.
well. These guys are incredible, and there's very few schools, I should say, who come close to the level of investment and involvement in esports as UTD. Now, the fact that they use that, like for example, Syracuse uses their ability to work and do the Power Esports Conference. That's incredible. UTD used it to affect a direct state-based tournament. That is also incredible equally. So really cool that they're getting creative with how they use their facility. And the broadcast,
Oh,
like look
at
at these
this.
graphics. Like
Yeah.
this is good. We're getting active tweets put in. Like this is so impressive. And I'm not trying to like knock on anybody, but like compare the Power Esports Conference and compare how a debut UTD event went. All I'm saying is that visually these are beautiful. Also, I believe that photo right there is actually from DreamHack. It's from the UTD Valorant team. So all I'm going to say is I'm taking partial credit for that. But no, on a serious note, this is just such an incredible event. And I'm very happy that things went the way that they did. It seemed like it was a really good tournament.
Yeah, I'm pretty envious that I didn't get to watch it live because I would have loved to be trolling and getting tweets put up here if I was actually watching live. But great production quality. Had Danger Taco casting as well. Had Valorant at the same time as Rocket League. Good mix. There's Taco. Shout him outs and whoever this other UTD caster is. But still great.
Look at a waste, man.
Great.
Look at a waste.
Overall series and a great tournament rather, and ended with a bang as well. Had a great last couple of series, and it's Valorant at the end. But you had UTD taking some games off of Lubbock Christian, and then LCU doing the same thing to Baylor at the very end. But you got a stacked casting desk with Taco and Oace, and I can't imagine the amount of fun that they had doing this broadcast. We need more tournaments like this. Like Syracuse are at the forefront of it. Boise's doing stuff like this. UTD's now adding their name to the list of programs that have facilities and capabilities to run this sort of thing. And it's exactly what we need in the collegiate space right now.
It's all just so exciting to see, and I'm very happy that Texas, of all the states, are developing together.
Yeah.
Like Baylor is buying in. I'm going to throw Oklahoma in the conversation just by proximity. Like these are programs that are all starting to see each other buy in and are either doing it out of the community or competition or both. And that right there is what it takes for these bigger schools to get involved. I'm waiting for it to spread to Georgia. I'm hoping by association it'll make its way to Florida and then to Georgia. But in the meantime, Texas leading the way and setting a really good example. Just a dream, year for UTD, top to bottom as a program. And again, like people like Oace in the program, like they have so many great student leaders. Brooke, one of their photographers that travels with the team to do land photos and video. Oh my God, Brooke is incredible. Easily one of the best I've seen in the scene. And that goes for Oace too, running on the Octane Apex side of things. Like UTD is doing collegiate esports the way you're supposed to do it, and that is let these students thrive, but also help them get to that level, and everybody in that program excels. And I'm glad the Danger was able to stop by. A nice little cameo, professional, little kind of, I said cameo already, you guys know what I mean. Really cool for him to be there, so it's a cool event.
Yeah, it's crazy how much like professional talent UTD has packed into that program. So I guess it's not really a shocker that they put together a broadcast package that looked like what we just showed up on stream. So shout out UTD, and shout outs to just up north in Edmond, Oklahoma, the Skill Issue LAN. This is the fourth time this LAN event has been run. And it featured like some pretty good Midwestern teams that traveled to this LAN. Oklahoma Christian featuring in this event. And this was hosted by the University of Central Oklahoma, if I do remember correctly. And Wichita State's been at these for several skill issues now running. Oklahoma's been to a couple. And Oklahoma Christian, I don't remember if this is their first one or not, but I think it was their first one. And either way, they ended up taking it. Wichita State, again, beating the teams that you had to was the name of these, the name of the game for these two LAN events. TJ, OC, winning the whole thing. No surprise. Wichita State coming in second. No surprise. Southeastern Oklahoma State's beating Oklahoma in Game 5. Like, close series. And I bet this was probably the series of the tournament. And it puts them in the top 3 as well.
I mean, yeah, and fittingly enough, they're the only two teams with really anything to like play for in terms of like expectations. Like, not to mention with losers round 3, losers quarters, like Wichita State Black had a really decent run. Great for them, wonderful
Yeah.
for them. And that, but like at the same time, when you look at actually making an impact in the top 48, you look at Oklahoma and Southeastern Oklahoma. So yeah, absolutely, I'm sure that was a banger. I feel for Oklahoma because they have been on the hotter end. They've had a very fun rivalry with Georgia State to watch in the meantime. And they definitely made the right decision by coming to this LAN where they actually had a very good chance of going top 3. And if they were playing and peaking, maybe they do go top 2. Who knows? But Wichita State's been hot enough recently to where I think they were guaranteed to make the final. And then that goes for OC as well. They have always, in the last year, have been very consistent. They've only had one bad semester as a program. Truly, it's only been one bad semester where things really fell apart. And then since then, they got right back to business. So them only dropping what seems to be one game the entire playoff bracket, no shocker there.
And shout out as well, this tournament actually featured high school teams. I think Epic Charter, Edmond Memorial. I'm not sure which ones exactly are the high school teams, but it did feature high school teams. And I mean, from the tournaments that you and I have hosted, TJ, like we are big fans of high school teams getting the chance to compete against collegiate teams. Like my Battle for Bama, we've always featured high school teams whenever we can. So I'm a huge fan of the high school squads getting a shot against the college teams, and they usually don't win unless actually you're in the state of Alabama where Bob Jones still reigns supreme. But
very rare occurrence.
Yeah, it is pretty rare overall. But I'm glad to see it because that's a big experience for those schools.
Yeah, I mean, I'm directly from the high school pipeline, so I don't need to add much to it. That's why my career is the way that it is. So go support your local middle school and high school esports programs.
Well, support LANs as well. Like we're starting to get to that semester, or that part of the semester where we are getting spoiled with LAN events. So very happy to see we finally arrived. We don't have any top 48 rankings to show off live on the podcast. We've just been too busy straight up to put together good lists, but I will be doing a live rankings after this podcast for all of you to stick around. I've got a live rankings segment, then a show match, then an NECC official between Winthrop Academy and Florida. So that's coming up after the show. So let's move on to our accolades. And before we start awarding them, TJ, I have to show this to everyone. First of all, make sure you all follow the podcast Twitter. The handle's right there, COL Exclusive Podcast. But I got to, award the Collegiate Exclusive Player of the Week live in person to Collat after he won it last week. I got to see him at the Boston Major. We ran into each other in the merch line. So shout out Collat. Got to get a picture with him. And saw a ton of other players, and it was a great time overall. But I thought this was a pretty cool moment for the podcast, getting to see one of our players that got the award in person.
Yeah, I saw this tweet and I just, I got to sit there and just smile as large as I can on my face. Eventually maybe we'll get to a point where we can get every player that we've talked positively and negatively about in RLCS LAN. We can try and get them all together for one. But no, this was really cool. And Collat, I mean, I don't need to say anything about Leslie. The program top to bottom full of just really outstanding and ethically outstanding people, from the director to the Rocket League people all the way down to the players. So overall, no surprises that Collat was cool enough to take a photo there.
Yeah, good dudes. I got to see Swaz and Dre as well. So shout out to those two. But we've got awards for this week to award, and I'm going to start off by segueing from the LAN segment into this one with a program of the week. I'm shouting out UTD, and we've already kind of given our reasoning for this, but putting on a LAN event that high quality and just overall as a program doing a lot of the right things at the moment. I do want to shout them out, and also in covering the LAN event that they put on, Josh did send me a great write-up about like the link to the VOD, the link to the bracket, the link to the format as well. I gotta shout him out. Also a viewer of the podcast pretty regularly, TJ. We love our friends at the show.
Well, and the fact that a director took the time out of their day to actually post-event, put something together to share out to community shows, that goes to show Josh's involvement in the community. It goes to show his knowledge of the scene. Like, he runs a very large program. He's not supposed to know every little thing about Rocket League like what DJTJ and MrBepic do on Tuesday nights. Like, he doesn't need to know that, but he does. And again, like, I don't need to continue to say more and more incredible things about UTD because I feel like I've already said everything I possibly can. can. Top to bottom, like they do an incredible job, and the school invests in them because they are all incredible at their jobs. So Josh just leads a great charge. But again, top to bottom, there's not a single thing wrong with that program. So a successful LAN, very, very proud of the program for putting that one together. And I'm excited to see what they do next.
Well, let's keep the positivity flowing here because we got other awards to give out. Let's do teams of the week first. For pulling off one of the only upsets in the entire week of CRL action, I do want to shout out Kennesaw State B. And since we're just giving out awards this week, shout out to Bruton Parker JV as well. I think we're gonna give out the dual Bepic Collegiate Exclusive Player or Team of the Week award to Bruton Parker JV and Kennesaw State B, two teams that talk a lot of game and are actually backing it up this week. So those are my teams of the week here.
They also both Georgia schools, so
yes.
Now I'm going to look like the bad guy. No, I'm going down to state. I'm more so with the break that we've had and kind of the back-to-back slow-ish episodes post-CRL qual. I was more so looking for a team who's in the meantime actually kind of found their place in CRL. So my team of the week is Daytona State, who throughout their Div 2 games, outside of that loss to South Carolina, which was a Game 6 loss, they then went on to go 4-2 over Florida. Then they 4-1 UCF. And then now they get to play Florida Southern on Bepic Stream tomorrow. So mine's kind of they've been really consistent, and I expect them to continue to be consistent. That should be a banger of a series on your stream. And also, because Bepic missed the SCL, I wanted to pull from Daytona State SCL games as well. They have played incredible. 3-0 over UAH, 3-2 over UCF. They lost 3-2 to ETSU, very close series. 3-0 over James Madison, 3-1 UTD-JV. Game 5 lost to Cumberland, and now they play UTA varsity next week. So this is a team who has only lost to teams who consistently remain in the top, I'll say, top 16-ish range. That's the only teams that this team has really lost to, outside of the South Carolina maybe. So Daytona State's finding their place consistently, I think, towards the top 32. They're just looking for an extra signature win or two, and they could start that this week with a Florida Southern win tomorrow and then CRL quals.
Yeah, definitely deserving of an award. There's a lot of teams that are on the up and up, on that grind at the moment, and Daytona State definitely one of them. And can't wait to see what they do this weekend. And actually, the next award we're giving out for, at least on my end, my player of the week is a guy that we're not going to see this weekend, but one that I did want to shout out, not so much for his play on the field, which we are already very familiar with. I'm giving my player of the week award to Royales, which they kicked some teams around last weekend in qualifying for league play, and Royales was a big part of that. So he's earning the award partially because of that, but also because I got to have some long conversations with him. Like, so long, we got kicked out of the venue. Well, I got kicked out. He had a pass, but after the first day of RLCS, he and I were chatting, like just chatting ball, chatting CRL, and and they were like, "Hey, you got to get out of here." And so our talk was cut short, unfortunately, but it was just great to talk to him. You said it earlier. He's one of the most positive dudes in the scene, and so getting to talk to him is always a pleasure. So my player of the week is Royales, half for how good he is just at Rocket League in general, and the other half for how much fun it was to talk to him in Boston over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, he is a social butterfly, and he is so much fun to be around. He is also, unironically, I'll make another very small joke point. He is rewriting a lot of impressions about Fisher Esports actively the more time he's there. Like, I would say he is, from a social and even a professional perspective, he is one of the biggest recruits that Fisher has ever signed because of what he means and how he represents his programs, and also how he represents South America as well. Love the kid to death. Or I say the kid, love the guy to death. Now, on that note, we'll wrap up with my player of the week. Mine's a little bit of a niche pick, but I think Oase will really love this one. As for my UTA friends, aka Caribou and Random Shy, I'm sorry for this, but Texas Dallas and Texas Arlington played on LAN on Texas Dallas, and it was a 4-0 for Texas Dallas.
Okay.
So on that note, I give it to my favorite player on that team. Sorry, Dalton. Sorry, and to everybody else who's ever played for UTD. Give me Zora as my player of the week. Another absurdly positive guy. So much fun to be around. And also, I don't think that we've gone towards Texas Dallas with a team or a player of the week. I think ever. So they get a program of the week, and then now you get a player of the week in the same week. So it's just a Texas type of feeling for me.
Yeah, I think it's fair. You host a great LAN. You got a great team to be around. I think you get a couple of awards. So shout out to Zora and the entirety of UTD. But that does bring us to the end of our show. And I've lost my overlay. I guess I didn't make one for that that final segment. So yeah, for the final word, I don't really have anything, TJ. I mean, this is probably our shortest episode since sometime last fall. Not much went on last week, but I think we're going to make up for that with our CRL coverage this weekend and next week. It's going to be a long show next Tuesday. I think I can guarantee that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have much of a Scholastic Minute because also things are going pretty well in terms of all of the high school and action around. Like I watched, again, like I'm going to reference the Carolina LAN again, which we didn't have a bracket for because they didn't publish one. So guys, please, if you're hosting an event, publish your stuff and get the marketing materials out. I beg. But like I referenced that LAN because it also brought high schools out. So we had 3 LANs in one weekend and 2 of them involved high schools in the tournament. That's awesome. We are turning the page on a really good age of collaboration. So if we wanted to do a Scholastic Minute, that's my statement for that. Is I am so happy and proud of some of the state-based or organized or like regional-based games and tournaments that are doing such a good job with involving high schoolers in their events. I know that me and you with the SEL, and especially within Alabama and Georgia, we try our absolute best to do the same. So I want to make sure that gets out as my closing remarks. And outside of that, we appreciate everybody tuning in. I really hate that I'm going to miss CRL Qual 2. I'm not going to be able to stream. I didn't get stream Qual 1 because I had personal family things. And then now I'm celebrating my birthday because I'm going to work 2 LANs in a row the next 2 weekends. So
all right,
I'm going to skip out on Qual 2, but it is because I will see you guys at the 2 biggest LANs of the month in March. And one of those, actually, neither one of them's announced their talent yet, so I won't say anything. But if you put 2 and 2 together, I'll see you guys in 2 separate places in the span of 3 weeks. So be fun.
All right, well, big couple of weeks coming up, so I'm glad we had a quiet week to get prepared for that. As always, thank you to everyone that tuned in live and everyone that watched on Spotify or YouTube or wherever else you managed to catch the podcast. Maybe some Twitch VOD viewers that are psychos that watch after the fact there. But do stay tuned, at least on my stream. I'll be doing a live top 48 ranking coming up after this. A lot of data input, a lot of figuring out. So let's have some fun with that. And then I'll have a WCTC and Mount Aloysius show match coming up at 8:30 Eastern time. And then an hour after that, 9:30 Eastern, is Florida versus Winthrop Academy, an NECC official. All best of 7s tonight. Top 48 before then. So thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you all in a little bit, unless you're watching after the fact, in which case we'll see you in the next podcast. Thanks for watching.